Think about this. 5,000 years ago, way before the Greeks or the Romans, one civilization engineered an empire designed to last forever. So let's get right into this incredible story of ambition, innovation, and the quest for eternity.
I mean, that line says it all, right? The ancient Egyptians weren't just building things. They were completely redefining the limits of what was possible. They were working on a scale that nobody would see again for thousands of years.
So that's the big question we're going to tackle here. It's a story of pure genius, incredible manpower, and this relentless drive to build a connection between our world and the divine. And believe it or not, it all starts with a river.
Right. So before you can build these unbelievable monuments to the heavens, you've got a much more immediate problem on your hands. You've got to conquer the world around you. And for the Egyptians, that meant one thing: the Nile River.
You know, the Nile was a classic double-edged sword. On one hand, it was everything to them. It was their main highway, the engine of their entire civilization. But on the other, that annual flood was a total monster. If it was too high, boom, cities wiped out. Too low, the whole country could starve. This was an obsession they had to solve with engineering.
So along comes Pharaoh Menes, who wants to create the first ever unified Egyptian kingdom. To do that, he's got to show everyone that he's in charge, not just of people, but of nature itself. This massive dam was a statement piece. It wasn't just about protecting his new capital, Memphis. It was about proving that the pharaoh could bring order to chaos.
But they didn't get it right on the first try. Far from it. Take this other dam, the Sa'ad al-Khafra. It was a complete and total disaster. We're talking 100,000 tons of rock that just fell apart. And that's such a crucial point. These guys were inventing this stuff as they went along. Failure wasn't just possible, it was a necessary step to figuring it all out.
And that learning curve, it started to get steep fast, because all of that trial and error led them straight to what we all think of when we hear ancient Egypt, the pyramids. This is where things get really wild.
Okay, so this timeline really shows how incredibly fast they went from zero to hero. They start with these pretty simple mud brick tombs called mastabas. Nothing too crazy. But then, around 2667 BC, this absolute genius architect, Imhotep, has a mind-blowing idea for his boss, Pharaoh Djoser. He says, what if we stack these mastabas, but we make the whole thing out of stone? And just like that, you get the Step Pyramid, the world's first massive stone building. But the story's not over. Next up is Pharaoh Sneferu, and man, this guy had some bad luck. His first pyramid literally collapsed. His second one started having problems halfway through, so they had to change the angle, which is why we call it the bent pyramid. But he stuck with it. His third try was perfect, and that perfection is what allowed his son, Khufu, to go on and build the Great Pyramid at Giza.
And think about this. We're talking about 10,000 workers just for Djoser's complex. That's not just an engineering problem. It's a massive management project. How on earth do you organize, feed, and house a small city of workers? The logistics alone are just staggering for that time.
And inside Sneferu's perfect red pyramid, they solved another huge problem. How do you make big open rooms inside a giant pile of rock without the whole thing caving in on you? Well, his builders came up with this brilliant invention, the corbelled vaulted ceiling. Look at how they did it. Each layer of stone juts out just a little bit from the one below it. This redirects all that crushing weight, allowing them to build these amazing, spacious chambers deep inside. Okay, so they figured out pyramids, but this incredible engineering skill wasn't just about tombs. Nope, it became a tool for everything. For war, for projecting power, and for building temples on a scale that would blow your mind.
Check this out. This is a fortress built by a warrior pharaoh named Sesostris III. He needed to lock down the gold routes in Nubia, so he built these, well, super forts. And look at the design. This isn't just a wall. You've got a deep, dry moat, then massive outer walls for archers, and then another set of even bigger inner walls. I mean, this is basically a medieval castle, but it was built thousands of years before anything like it existed in Europe. Just incredible.
Engineering also became a powerful form of PR. You've got Queen Hatshepsut, a woman ruling as pharaoh, which was unusual. She needed to cement her authority. So what does she do? She commissions this absolutely stunning temple. I mean, look how modern it looks. It's built right into the cliff face on these 3 huge terraces. This wasn't just a temple, it was a billboard declaring her power and her right to rule.
And then we have the obelisks. How in the world did they do it? It's just amazing. First, imagine carving a single massive piece of stone, weighing up to 1,100 tons, out of the ground.
Okay, step 1 done. Now, you have to move it hundreds of miles. So, they'd wait for the Nile to flood and float it on these enormous barges. But here's the real genius part. To stand it up, they'd build this giant funnel out of mud bricks and fill it with sand. They'd pull the obelisk up and over the funnel, and then they'd just slowly let the sand out. The obelisk would just gently lower itself right into place. It's so simple and so incredibly clever.
All right, so all of this is building towards the new kingdom. And this is where everything, the size, the speed of construction, and frankly, the egos of the pharaohs just goes into overdrive.
So you have this rebel pharaoh, Akhenaten. He throws out all the old gods and decides to build an entirely new capital city dedicated to his one god. And he wants it done like yesterday. This crazy deadline forced his engineers to come up with a shortcut. They invented these things called talatats. They're basically small, standardized limestone blocks. It was like ancient Legos or prefab construction. And because of this innovation, they could throw up an entire city in a ridiculously short amount of time.
Then there are pharaohs like Seti I. He wanted to add his own mark on the massive Karnak temple complex. And his addition, the hypostyle hall, is just on another level. I want you to picture this. You're walking into a forest made of stone. There are 134 colossal columns. The biggest ones are as tall as a 7-story building and so thick that it takes 10 people just to link arms around one. This wasn't built for you to feel good. It was built to make you feel tiny, to completely overwhelm you and remind you of the immense power of the gods. And of course, the pharaoh.
But if we're talking about ego, we have to talk about Ramesses the Great. This guy takes the cake. His temples at Abu Simbel, they aren't even built. They are carved. He literally had his workers carve them straight out of a mountain. The whole thing is one giant sculpture. It's the ultimate fusion of engineering and art, and the message couldn't be clearer. I'm not just a king, I am a god on earth. And this chart really drives home just how massive these things are. Look at Ramesses there, almost 70 feet tall. Compare that to an average person. But here's something really interesting. The statues of his favorite queen, Nefertari, are just as prominent. That was almost unheard of, and it really shows you just how important she must have been to him.
So when you step back and look at 3,000 years of nonstop building, what's the takeaway? What's the real legacy here?
You know, when you really boil it down, it wasn't just about being good at math or cutting stone. It was about their incredible ability to organize people on a massive scale. It was about learning from their mistakes, sometimes disastrous mistakes. And maybe most of all, it was about this unshakable confidence, this belief that what they were building was meant to last forever. They were literally trying to engineer a bridge between their world and the world of the gods.
Which brings us to one last big question. What was the real fuel for this 3,000-year obsession? Was it all for their gods? Was it just the egos of one pharaoh after another trying to outdo the last? Or was it something more universal? That timeless human drive to make a mark, to create something that will last long after we're gone, to build a legacy that can truly touch eternity. It's a heck of a thing to think about.